Today on Lockdown Red Wings, Detroit wins a weird one.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a sports writer for C&G newspapers, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 men's hockey. And we have a win to cover. Maybe the most ass-backwards Red Wings win we've seen all season, but a win nonetheless. And we'll explain all the reasons why this was the antithesis of a Detroit Red Wings win in a moment. But first, I got to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Also want to thank you guys for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Scotty, the Red Wings win this one in Utah. First time ever in Utah, by the way, 5-1. There is a lot of news and notes going into the game. The return of Jeff Petrie after 2 months, Elmer Soderblom after maybe about a week into the lineup. You also had and we'll talk about it probably a little bit at the end, Emmitt Finnie getting sent to the Grand Rapids Griffins from the Kamloops Blazers, which is a little bit notable because he was great with Kamloops this season, so reinforcements to Grand Rapids. But as far as this win goes, Scotty, first thought, where's your mind at?
That, I guess, speechless, blank. I don't know. It was weird, man. This was a game, as you mentioned. I mean, already a really weird hockey game that, in general, was. It's funny when thinking about the Red Wings in the Lalonde era, and just we're trying to have low event hockey wins. And I think that the Red Wings had quite a few low event stretches in this game. And at one point, Utah went 10 minutes without a shot on net. The Wings had 2 shots on net, I think, after the first period. This was just you used 2 goalies, just a really, really weird game. So I think my first thought was, wow, is it nice to actually win one of these weird games? It just kind of felt like nothing has gone right for the Wings since Four Nations, and they've been on the losing end of some games that maybe they deserve to win, or that they just completely, choked at the end, et cetera, whatever the weird circumstance may be. And this was certainly a weird game. That is how I would describe it. And it's just nice to walk out of there with a couple of points.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was this: if there was ever a definition of they don't ask how type win, right, and that you can use that in multiple instances in this hockey game, right, Scotty? You have the Kasper goal, they don't ask how. You have the Austin Watson goal, they don't ask how. You have 1 goal on 1 shot, 2 goals on 4 shots, 3 goals on 9 shots, 4 goals on 11 shots, and 5 goals on 14 shots. Any one of those moments, they don't ask how. It ended up in the back of the net, and you're like, okay, you know what? You take it. And really, we were talking about it right before we hopped on. This was the antithesis of everything antithesis of everything the Red Wings have been doing to win games when they were winning, right? Everything that was bad about the Red Wings in this stretch, and over the course of the season, really, that cost them hockey games, is the exact reason why they won in this one, right? One of the biggest reasons why they kept losing is they would give up easy offense. Well, they only allowed 18 shots. Goaltending would be piss poor. Alex Lyon comes in relief of an injured Peter Mrazek and stops all, 16 of 17, and granted, low, there wasn't a lot. And a lot of that has to get, again, to do with the fact that they tightened up defensively, which was another issue that they've had. And not to mention, Scotty, 4 for 5 on the penalty kill. Everything that went right in this hockey game, as weird as this game was, and I think a lot of it, I don't think the ice was very good because it wasn't like Utah was playing great either. Obviously, a lot of the focus is on the low shot count the Red Wings had until they piled it on there late in the third period. The Utah Hockey Club didn't have a lot of offense either. They had a shift or two here or there where they were getting behind the Detroit Red Wings defense and getting chances, and Lyon was able to make the save. But both teams kind of stunk in this game, offensively speaking. So, I mean,
don't think it's kinda.
Yeah.
Like,
but they got the
again,
win.
the Wings had 2 shots through at the end of the first period, and I think 5 through 2, dude. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And I think
winning.
Utah only had 4 in the second period because I think they ended the second with 14 and finished the third with 18. So both teams were struggling for offense.
I think they legitimately went 15, or maybe it was a full 20. It was like around halfway through the second to around halfway through the third without a shot.
Yeah. I think they counted at 13 minutes without a shot in the second period.
Yeah.
And they won 5-1. I mean, sometimes those games just happen. They don't ask how, right? Just weird win. Difference maker in this hockey game, Scotty. What was, in your opinion, the main reason that they sealed this victory?
You know, I actually think there's a few different ways you can go here. I think it's really easy, as you mentioned, to just kind of say not having the worst penalty kill I've ever seen was a nice change of pace. But I think I'm actually going to go with Lyon. As you mentioned, I mean, didn't face a high volume, certainly, but made 3 or 4 fantastic, like big time saves. There was at one point in the, I think it was probably like 5 or 10 minutes after Lyon entered the game where the Red Wings defense was atrocious. Like they played super sloppy and were all over the place and were allowing high danger after high danger after high danger after high danger. And Lyon stopped all of them. And that is, to me, like very clearly the difference between winning and losing this hockey game. Obviously, the final score ends up not being extremely close, but you get the empty netter in there. You get the Mott goal in garbage time. Like, this game is completely different if Alex Lyon does not stand on his head for those, next 10-ish minutes after getting put in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down 2 difference makers in here, and he was one of those 2. He made 16 saves in this hockey game. You look at that volume and you go, okay, well, it's pretty easy to make 16 saves when that's all you're facing. And, some credit goes to the Detroit Red Wings defensively as well. They did block 25 shots in this hockey game, which is great. But this was Lyon's first action since the last time the Red Wings played Utah on the 6th. His first game in 18 days. He came in relief of Mrazek in a game he wasn't supposed to start in, and he made some big saves. You just pointed it out just there, Scotty, right? With the that sequence back to back. There was the breakaway he made the blocker save on, and then everyone chased the puck into the corner, left another guy out front, and he made another save right after that. There were a couple instances, like saves on deflection. So the volume may not have been high, but there were some very high quality chances where in the past Lyon was not making those clutch saves when you needed him to, but in this game, he was making every clutch save that you asked of him, only allowed 1 goal, and again, not one I really blame him on. That was the 1 power play goal that Gunther scored. I thought he was very good, and his goal saved above expected on just 16 shots was still 1.06, which means that it just kind of adds to the point that maybe the quantity was low, but the quality of the saves he did make was fairly high. Yeah, Alex Lyon absolutely deserves to be the difference maker, coming in relief and then playing a good hockey game to get them to the win. My difference maker, you hinted at it there, but 4 for 5 on the PK. We've been begging for this PK, and I mean, after that first disaster of a penalty kill, I was like, okay, here we go again. Like, every single penalty kill is an instant goal against, but from there on, they cleaned it up. They really did not allow any good chances on the remaining 4 penalty kills, and they went 80% in this hockey game, which is more than you can ask for in a game where they could not get a call to go their way, but they were getting that Soderblom trip drove me nuts. That was such a clear dive. But That's a different conversation. Red Wings were getting cold like crazy, and they were able to kill it all off.
When it happened, my roommate yelled, "Well, that's a fake trip." And then the ref put his arm up, and we went, "Oh, you gotta be bleeping me." My goodness.
And they earned a couple of them, but it's just like some of them were. And
I thought every aspect of this game was super sloppy, man. I thought it was sloppy reffing, sloppy defense by the Wings, super sloppy offense. Utah wasn't any better on either side of the ice. This was just a gross hockey game all around.
And again, I think the ice was just really poor. And not to mention, too, I think that the glass was lower because there was a lot of pucks flung out of play. Like Sider that he just launched it across the ice.
The one that he just put into orbit, I think that thing's still in the air. I don't think it's actually landed yet.
And there were a couple weird Kareems off the boards. I'm like, okay, this is like one of those times where you can clearly tell like this. And they talked about all the renovations coming to the arena, but you can tell like, okay, maybe this rink was a little rushed in the conversion to an ice rink. But that's not me talking crap. All the renovations are coming, but you can just feel like, oh yeah, this is the inaugural season for this ice crew. Because it was rough for sure. Let's do a quick break, Scotty. When we return, we'll talk about other things that stood out to us in this hockey game. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings.
Got to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters, Cinderella stories, and even who is cutting down the nets. I've got my eye on a few underdogs still going forward. I know it's been, there aren't any super high-seeded teams remaining, but there is a lot of upset potential still in this bracket, and FanDuel makes it easy to back those underdogs with spreads, totals, and game props. You can also stay in the action all tournament long. There's tournament games happening almost every day in March, the rest of March, as we know, especially on the weekends, and there's always something to bet on. The FanDuel app is also super easy to use. When I win, I get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts available to you. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein. This gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, as I always tell y'all, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, I'm on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they are always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, kind of adding to the conversation about this being like an antithesis of the Detroit Red Wings win. Top 6 was invisible in this hockey game. It was the bottom 6 that provided the bulk of the offense, right? Elmer Soderblom, in his return to the lineup, scored a goal on the first shot of the game off a nice assist from Vladimir Tarasenko. You had Austin Watson's first goal as a Detroit Red Wing coming after an amazing season with Grand Rapids on the weirdest deflection I've ever seen go up and over Velmelka's shoulder. And then, of course, you had Tyler Mott adding insult to injury at the end of the game on Craig Smith's first point as a Detroit Red Wing. Just all around.
What a play that was, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the stick work from Craig Smith on that whole possession was fantastic.
Yeah, and it was great to see the bottom 6 in general, especially in a game where the top 6 completely disappeared. The bottom 6 be the lines that provide the offense for once. Right.
No, exactly. And it you don't want it to come at the expense of the top 6's production. Yeah. But because there has been such a question mark this season surrounding the depth production and the depth scoring, it is nice to have a game where it almost exclusively came from that depth scoring, for sure.
Yeah, what a tip, too, on Austin Watson's first goal. Like,
way up in the air, baby.
Velmelka had no opportunity.
I love
no
him.
chance. No, and he laid a big retaliatory hit to stand up for.
Time, yeah.
Oh God, was it Kasper in the corner? I'm drawing a blank on.
No,
who
it was Mo
in the corner. Mo, thank you, Mo in the corner. And it's like this is the type of energy. My buddy John's going to be listening to this, grinning ear to ear. That's the type of energy this team sorely lacked. Is a guy who's just going to stand up for his teammates. And I've noticed it the last few games. Obviously, he only plays like 6-7 minutes a night. But like his presence was felt in this hockey game, right? He wasn't letting people get away with the little stuff, and then he got a goal on top of it to top it off. I think that was his first goal in, I think they said 2 years in the NHL. So I'm happy for Austin Watson. I'm happy for Craig Smith. Again, that, like you said, that was a great play. Tyler Mott reaping the rewards of fantastic move by Craig Smith. You see flashes of that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a guy who has scored 20 goals in a season multiple times in his career. So like, yeah, there's still the talent in there. Soderblom goal, that was all Tarasenko on the pass. Did a great job, and I think Prashant pointed this out on Blue Sky. Did a great job of luring the defender away, giving Soderblom more space before just kind of chucking it over Soderblom's way with the finish. Great to see him on the score sheet in his first game back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think I don't know, like there's so much of a big picture conversation to still have with a lot of this team over the summer. And there is not a lot of hope really throughout the fan base at the present moment. Certainly not a whole lot here on this show either. And I feel like those, I don't know if stories is too dramatic, but like those moments and those plays where you do see kind of whether it's flashes of solid hockey from a particular group or a particular player, or somebody comes back from injury, like those are important not only to the player who's trying to, prove that they are healthy and like able to go for, this fall, but also for the team. Like these games, as much as the fan base wants to, tell you that like these games don't matter anymore, whatever, I'm going to tune out, like they still do. And they certainly still matter to the players as well. So, yeah, nice to see. I agree.
Well, and that's too, like, we're not coming on here trying to be like, yeah, we're back. We're just enjoying the win for what it's worth,
right?
Because that's what we're at right now. And it's nice to get the win. And I do think Soderblom was one of, almost an honorable mention, in my opinion, in terms of difference makers. Again, he only scored the one goal, but he was noticeable all night long. And in a game where there wasn't a lot of players noticeable offensively, I thought, even outside that goal, he was making plays and finding open space. I continue to be impressed by Elmer Soderblom. He was able to slide down in the lineup and be just as productive. Probably a little bit more. He's been good on the top line, but probably for where he's at right now, the third line is a good spot for him, especially with the bottom six struggling to produce like they have been. Jeff Petrie returned to the lineup, Scotty. What'd you make of Petrie's return and the pairs at that?
Yeah. He was back. Like, I mean, again, this was such a weird hockey game. Like, I'm not even sure I have, like, he, looked incredible or looked awful. I don't think either of those things are true, but it was you lose Gustafson, and so your bottom four consists of Petrie, Hall, and two rookies. It's just a matter of how you mix and match them. So I will be interested in seeing how those are mixed and matched the remainder of the season here, because I think that could be A, experimental, and B, kind of telling.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Petrie was going to come back in, my immediate thought was, okay, he's going to pair with Edvinsson. And I know we've loved the Albert Johansson and the Simon Edvinsson pairing, but it was pretty clear to me that pairing as a whole was getting kind of worn down by the length of the NHL season. We've talked about it on this podcast. And in the brief period that Edvinsson and Petrie had played together, they had great underlying numbers. So I was like, Edvinsson and Petrie is the pair you go right back to, especially because Petrie, is capable of eating those minutes. He played in this hockey game 16 minutes, 56 seconds. He had 3 blocked shots. He was fine. Edvinsson and Petrie were fine together. Johansson and Hull's Hole is what hole is. I won't talk smack. I think Johansson did well considering what was the third pair. And I thought Moritz Seider had a really nice bounce-back game. 24 minutes, 4 minutes on the PK, just straight up. After what looked like kind of a rough game against Vegas Golden Knights, playing third pair. Part of that was just mix and matching because they're trying to cover for Logison. Moritz Seider thought had a great game. So, I mean, defensively, again, they blocked like 24 shots. Seider had four blocked shots. Justin Holl had 3 blocked shots. Petrie had 3 blocked shots. The only one that had a blocked shot, actually, ironically, is Albert Johansson. But, they were protecting Lyon out front. Like, Lyon made great saves, but they also were preventing a lot from getting to him, which was something that they hadn't been doing lately.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that how the bottom 4 is put together is also kind of a similar conversation to the top 4 earlier in the season, where it was, okay, do you put, Seider and Edvinsson together and then have your second pair be Sherratt and Petrie? Like, that's not awesome. Like, you want to spread it out a little bit and make it a little bit more even. And I feel like, if I was to ask you tomorrow if you wanted a pair in tomorrow's game today, as people are listening to this, that was Holl and Petrie, I think most of the fan base would say, please no. So I think that this is also a way to, again, just kind of like even out and level everything out, while also, to your point, accomplishing divvying up 2 rookies that have played more hockey than they've ever played in a 6-month stretch in their entire lives before.
Right, and it's even simpler than that too, right? Like, you look at the handedness of the defensemen, and there's only 2 defensemen on this active roster right now.
That certainly helps, yeah.
Who can play on the other side, and I think it's Sherratt who's experienced playing, because Gustafsson's obviously hurt, Sherratt who's experienced playing on the right side, and Johansson who can play on the right side as a lefty too. You have 3 right-handed defensemen who, as far as I know, have never played on the left side in their career, so it makes it pretty obvious who your 3 right side defensemen are going to be. So then it's just figuring out the order of the left side. Right. So, I mean, you're not putting a Holl in the second pair, so Petrie goes on the second pair. You're not putting Holl and Petrie on the third pair because they're both right side defensemen, neither of which, as far as I know, have ever played left side. So it's pretty cookie cutter in my opinion in that, and I thought they were fine. Again, it helps too that Petrie and Edvinsson have those good underlying numbers, and I thought Johansson played a pretty good game considering. Defensively overall, besides that one terrible lapse in that Lyon made 2 really good saves. I thought defensively they were strong this game. Scotty, let's head to another break. When we return, I want to talk about, obviously, Alex DeBrincat getting his 500th career point, Emmitt Finnie, and then we'll talk about the game against Colorado coming up tonight. So stay tuned to Locked On Red Wings. Thanks, Scotty. There's nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. Check the Game Time app, and you're going to see there are amazing deals on some huge matchups coming up. Guys, I've talked about it 1,000 times. I used the Stadium Series, Game Time, to get my Stadium Series tickets. Everything that they talk about in these reads are what I took advantage of in these reads to save as much money as possible. And I'm not even kidding. Like, I actually went through the settings to make sure I had all these features on that they always talk about. One, the Game Time picks, right? Making sure that they're showing me good deals. What they're talking about now, the super deals. I didn't know that's what it was called at the time, but I kept talking about the top 1% of the pricing of the seats around me. And it was right. I saved almost $100 on my seat based on the seats around me. I used the all-in pricing toggle that they advertise to make sure I knew what I was spending up front without being shocked by fees at checkout. All of that is made so easy by using Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, Alex DeBrincat got his 500th career point on the primary assist on Marco Kasper's very weird goal, and then got .501 on the empty netter that made it at the time 4-1 before the Red Wings got a, rub the salt in your wound goal about a minute later. Just take a moment to congratulate Alex DeBrincat on what's been an incredible career so far. He also reached 60 points with that primary assist. He has been, honestly, he's probably been the most consistent scorer the Red Wings have had this season, which is, as many things as have gone wrong this year, that is something that is refreshing to have gone right.
Yeah, because it's the exact opposite as last year, right? Last year, he was the most inconsistent scorer on the entire team. And so for him to have the season he has, I'm so happy for him. And I can't wait until we do our postseason player reviews and talk about how great of a season Cat had. There's going to be a lot of frustration in those. There will be next to none with Alex DeBrincat. He was absolutely fantastic this season and continues to be that, like in the buzz cut too, man. I think he looks sharp. So,
did we ever get an explanation as to why he did that? He just felt like it?
On the broadcast, they literally said he just felt like it. Yeah.
Scotty, Emmitt Finnie has been reassigned. We got even an official Red Wings post about it. Reassigned from Kamloops Blazers to the Grand Rapids Griffins. He's had an incredible last 2 seasons with Kamloops. His 7th round draft pick, so you love seeing guys taken late in the draft take that next step into professional hockey. And honestly, some much needed reinforcements for Grand Rapids, who's been struggling to score since Detroit went and poached every single talented forward that they had off their roster. So far with Kamloops as their captain, he has 84 points in 55 games. He had 59 and 62 last season, so it's going to be awesome to see him take that leap. Obviously, I think he played 3 games with the Grand Rapids last year, so it's not going to be his pro debut, but he's probably, I would imagine after, this offseason, is probably there to stay. I think he's going to stick pro.
Yeah, I would imagine so too, which is really exciting. I mean, that's again, for as much, I know we had this conversation a couple weeks ago too, but for as much frustration as there is at the NHL level, there's still a lot of excitement and a lot of talent in the pipeline that hopefully will be, helping the Red Wings over the next few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just another forward, another prospect taking a step forward. And this is where, we've been talking a lot about lately the frustrations we've had with the Yzerman tenure right now, especially pointed towards the lack of production from free agent acquisitions. Excuse me. But the amateur scouting, the amateur development's been an area where his game plan has really excelled. In a 7th round pick from just 2023, right? This is 2 years ago. It's not a 7th round pick that's taken 4 years to develop. This is a guy that you took just a couple years ago is now making the leap probably full time from here on out to pro hockey. Gives him an opportunity to, grow and take the next leap. And you like stories like that. There's not much else to this. But if those reports out of Sweden are true, and MBN and ASP, I love the fact that all of our Swedish prospects are just acronyms, are going to come over to North America, then Grand Rapids is going to get a huge boost for the playoffs. And that Sebastian Costa is probably thanking the Lord because he's been standing on his head to try and keep that team afloat.
Well, it's also a sign of health organizationally. I feel like, especially with the amount of impatience, not unjustified impatience, I want to make that clear, but with the amount of impatience that is kind of running throughout the fan base right now to go into next year and potentially have a large handful of guys that are ready or are knocking on the door for the NHL or are just in Grand Rapids period, are just, are one step away from the Red Wings. I think will go a long way just for that, but also B will go a long way for depth purposes. Those are the kind of guys you want to give opportunities in the middle of the season. So
100%. Scotty, Red Wings play the Colorado Avalanche in Colorado tonight. Second half of a back-to-back. Tall order would not be, I'm going to say this now, so I hold myself to it, would not be overly upset if they lose this game. Not that I'm rolling over for a loss, but just knowing the opponent, knowing you're on the second half of a back-to-back, it's kind of one of those scheduled losses, it feels like, with a very good Colorado team whose main weakness, I feel, is probably their goaltending, their problems.
Yeah, what are the odds you start off our conversation tomorrow after the game with I'm pissed?
I'm just pissed off. Dude, oh my goodness. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different goaltenders play for them this season. That's crazy.
I believe it. Yeah.
Mackenzie Blackwood's had a .917 save percentage with the Colorado, at least on the season. So perhaps I spoke too soon on the goaltending woes. But yeah, the Colorado Avalanche are very good. So I'm going to try and manage my expectations.
You know, that if there's one thing I can say about the Avalanche, it is that they are very good. I'm not gonna get in the way of that take. Yeah, I mean it's funny, like you mentioned, goaltending, team save percentage. The Red Wings are 26th, the Avs are 20th. So not great, but still pretty comfortably, better than you. And then if you look offensively, I mean, it's not even close.
You don't even have to break down the analytics. It's it's not even close. These two teams are different atmospheres.
Detroit Red Wings 20th in face-off percentage, Avs 29th. Let's go win a hockey game. All right,
let's go win a hockey game. Nathan MacKinnon has 105 points in 71 games. Scotty, he's got 77 assists. He's more than an assist per game with the Colorado Avalanche this season. And Cal McCarr has 81 points in 71 games. So, yeah, your work's cut out for you.
Just, freak, dude. He is just ridiculous. It's literally like watching him is like watching a different breed of defenseman. You know what I mean?
Same breed as me, though, right?
Thanks for making us your first listen.
2025 D1 Fall Champs, buddy.
Congrats, man. Congrats, for real. That's awesome.
We almost had an emergency pod to talk about it.
We were at no point even remotely close to having an emergency pod to talk about it. But I am happy for the boys.
Thank you. Yes, so we'll talk about that game tomorrow.
What game?
Colorado Avalanche. The game people actually care about, Scotty. Only I care about my men's league team. So,
Locked On Brian's men's league?
Locked On Purple Parrots.
Dude, that goes so hard. What?
Legends of the Hidden Temple reference.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we rebranded. We had a couple years of failures in the championship game. We couldn't get it done, so we rebranded. And, we got it done this year. Got it done.
Happy for you. We ball.
Thanks. We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.